Hello and welcome back to Shooting Our Mouths Off, the podcast for James fans by James fans. We're diving straight back in now to part 2 of episode 8, where we're discussing Nothing But Love, the definitive best of, with Dave Brown. So let's dive back in to where we left off.
Was there any consideration for any of the sort of songs off One Man Clapping?
No.
I know it's a live recording, but was
Yeah,
any
no,
songs
I
on
mean,
there that you can't get anywhere else?
We didn't, and maybe that sort of, with hindsight, is possibly a bit of an oversight that, Stutter's a really important song.
Yeah.
I
think for me, I would have liked Burns. Burns, one of my favourites.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head. Wasn't that on The Gathering Sound?
Oh, it might have been.
A vague recollection that it was on The Gathering Sound. Something off One Man Clapping on The Gathering Sound. Yeah, I mean, that's a great song, and it sort of got lost between the cracks in the 80s because it was, Strip Mine had been written and recorded sort of 86, 87.
Yeah.
And they'd written that well ahead of Gold Mother, because they'd been playing it in 1988.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, there was a few songs from around that period that just sort of fell through the cracks. That one ended up on One Man Clapping. Yeah, I mean, it's such a great song. We didn't really consider anything live for this.
Yeah.
No,
I think that's fair enough.
Maybe an oversight, but because I really think Stutter's a really key song.
Yeah.
But it was like picking which version of it we would put on because they've done it different ways. There was a studio version with Strip Mine.
Yeah.
So there was sort of like leaked early versions of Strip Mine that have it on. It doesn't work as a studio song. I think they came to that conclusion then, and probably when they may revisit it for Gold Mother and came to the same conclusion that it's still an incredible live song, and I'd love to see that back in the set list.
Yeah, it's always an interesting one because they all kind of move around on stage. You get Marco's on drums, on keys. I mean, with 9 of them now, it'll be even more interesting to see.
They did it in America last year, in Philadelphia, I think it was.
Yeah, but it just sort of drops back in, and I think they've got this core of songs like Jam J, Honest Joe. I think Attention sort of in it, even though it's not a similar type of song, that they'll play one of them, but not multiple ones of them. Because I'd love to hear Jam J and Honest Joe together.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favourite bits of James' video around is that Glastonbury performance from '94, where they play Jam J and Honest Joe back to back.
Yeah,
because it's just visually such an incredible sort of live performance. That seeing those two together and throw Stutter in as well, just for good measure.
Yeah.
So we go back to the question. Yeah, we didn't really consider One Man Clapping. And I don't know. It's a difficult one because the band's constantly looking forward.
Yeah.
Is there a space for that to be re-released at some point? Possibly, but there's a lot of
those record store day things that would be good as a special release if you were going to re-release something like that.
Yeah, I mean the trouble with record store day is it's very much a big label thing.
Yeah,
so that's One Man Clapping's owned by the band, so they'd have to put it out themselves.
Yeah, and that costs money. Not going to make anything from it.
It's money, but then there's also the focus. The focus obviously is on moving forward.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be taking a time up in a schedule and a release for something that's 25, 30 odd years old now.
Yeah.
But people want it, and I think 5-10 years ago you could pick it up pretty cheaply on vinyl. I've noticed the vinyl prices.
Really cheap, yeah.
The vinyl prices have gone through the roof now. And I picked a CD up for somebody the other week. It was like 25 quid.
Wow.
So the pricing sort of changed on it a little bit. And maybe there's a time and a place for it, but there's a lot of stuff in the archives from at Universal. They've, you look at most bands have gone through this deluxe phase of the albums, and James have only really done Laid. Partly because some of those other bands have got bigger international appeal. So, there's worldwide sales to pull in. But, we haven't seen expanded editions of any of those 1990 to 2001 albums.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really nice looking stuff on paper, at least, in the archives. And I think, that's a whole unexplored area of James. That, demos of songs that made it on the records. And, James don't call songs, really quite often name songs right at the end of the process.
Yeah.
So there's listings in Universal's archives of track names, and you're like, is that a new song? Is it something that became something else? And, you see things like Daniel's Saving Grace, well, that's getting away with it.
Of course.
And, song names did change. But there's potentially a lot of stuff out there that no one's ever heard. And,
it'd be nice for one day for it, maybe towards the end when it's time to wrap things up, for that to be released.
Yeah. And it's
just like a final, so this is what you never heard. It's never going to be anything.
But it's a really big job to do it.
It would be huge.
And the returns on it are not necessarily the greatest.
Jim brought it up at the Live at the Acropolis screening, didn't he? He said that when they were all dead, their family would make a load of money and release it all.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
Yeah. Well,
lovely.
I'm going to be saying, can I have those bin bags of cassettes that are in your loft?
Can you imagine? Because I remember Sol once said in an interview that he had loads of video footage.
Yeah, and I was talking to Larry about 6 months ago, and he had a lockup in Manchester that he was clearing out and take, because he lives in Portugal now, and he had a load of DAT tapes. That he said, oh yeah, there's a big box of DAT tapes there, and I was like, yeah, and they'll have them because that's how they talk about. I think Tim talked about in the interview with Joe McGrath, or Jim did, that they had a cassette recorder in the corner of Gavin's mum's kitchen that they recorded all the jams on.
Yeah.
And then, and there's stories of them having mini disc recorders when they were doing the jams. And now it's the technology's there that you can record anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And their process for writing is they jam, somebody takes it away, cuts it up, and puts together pieces of a jam into a song, and then they work from there. And that's what we heard with Pudding. I think that was a bit further down the line with the process. But there's, for people who are really sort of hardcore fans, I want to hear that.
Yeah, I was.
And I might not want to listen to it. I might want to listen to it over and over. But I think there's still I go back and listen to old bootlegs.
Yeah.
There's certain gigs that are just really incredible to listen to. There's one from Hamburg in 1992. And when I was working in Wolfsburg for Volkswagen when that tour was on, and me and my mate hitched round. We did Cologne, Berlin, Hamburg, Copenhagen, Frankfurt, and the gig at the Star Club in Hamburg was just incredible. So much energy. People climbing on stage, and Tim was getting pissed off because they were knocking the monitors out. So the encore, he didn't come out. So all the band came out and then realised Tim hadn't come out, and they did this instrumental version of How Was It For You?
All right.
And then them singing, some of the backing vocals they'd sing, and it was just but there's such energy in some of those recordings that's you don't get from listening to a studio recording. And they're not things that, I listen to all the time, but every so often It's like, I'm going to go listen to that.
Yeah.
And the 80s recordings are incredible. Some of the, there's lots of songs in the 80s that never made it to release. That are just
and I think that's what affected. I think that's what affected my wrap up of the year, because some of the things I listen to are bootlegs from gigs from years. I didn't even go to.
Well, I mean, mine are like, I'd listen to so many different track orders of this release that I think once we'd finalised it, I don't think I listened to it for about 6 months or like 4 months.
You just had enough.
Yeah, I just listened to those songs so often, and we'd just been to New York, and I listened to the 58 songs in order on the plane, and I was like, yeah, well, I was sat.
That's one way to pass the time.
It wasn't going anywhere, and it was just like, this is such an incredible collection.
Yeah, it is.
I sat on the plane feeling very, very proud of it, because
of course, and you definitely should be. Like, the work you put in place is just.
But it's such an amazing collection of songs.
Yeah, I remember finding the right moment to sit down and actually do my review for it, because I was like, I need to listen to it all together. I can't just because sometimes when you're reviewing an album, you go back on to the promo cloud or whatever you've got, and you just click onto certain songs, but not this.
And there's moments with it, like people talked about songs that should have been on, and I think Jim mentioned 5-0 in that interview with Joe McGrath, and it was simply like, I'm not sure we actually sat down and decided this, but I'd sort of said I don't really want to put on more than 4 songs off an album.
Yeah.
I think I'd set that rule when I was trying to move things around, because we were moving stuff around the spreadsheet. And the problem is with those Mercury albums was getting anything that wasn't a single was really hard to fit on.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of singles in those days.
Yeah.
So if you set a limit of 4 songs an album, which I think is a reasonable thing, because I've seen there's a Keane best of that's like got 6 or 7 songs off an album.
Oh, wow.
And it's
right.
You might as well just play the album.
Yeah, I think you need a rule like that, or you're going to overrepresent things.
Yeah, and underrepresent other things.
And then people are going to be upset about their favourite albums.
Yeah, but then you look at Laid. You've got Sometimes, Laid, and Say Something. Well, you can't take any of those off.
No.
And then you're down to a shootout between Out to Get You and 5-0. Even without considering anything else off that record.
Yeah.
And which one do you pick? It's really difficult. And the more recent was La Petite Mort as well. You've got,
that was a hard one.
Well, you've got Moving. No, it wasn't for me really. You've got Moving On and Curse.
Yeah.
A lot of people have talked about Walk Like You. All I'm saying.
Long song, though.
All I'm saying, I'll come to that. All I'm saying, I'm like, I would have taken that off. I don't like that radio edit.
No, I do think you lose something the way that it sort of
jazzy.
It's an incredible song, but I think the studio version is the real, the album version works, but it doesn't work as a single.
The radio edit, it takes away from the emotion in the
flow. Yeah, I don't think it works in the flow as well.
It's one of those songs better live, I think.
Yeah, and then
you feel the emotion.
But Tim specifically wanted that on.
Of course.
So, that's like, it's their songs, it's their record.
Ultimately.
Yeah. So then you're down to Interrogation and Walk Like You. Because Interrogation is, to me, is the top 5 James song for me.
Right.
Particularly when they play it in full.
Yeah.
But we'll carry on that campaign to not drop that middle bit. And one of the challenges is, as you said, Walk Like You, 7.5 minutes.
It's a long song.
We recall having a very specific discussion at Blueprint about Walk Like You. And I was like, I've got to take 2, possibly 3 songs off.
For that one song to be on.
Yeah. And because it's at the end of a side. Because you end the CD 2 into CD 3.
Yeah.
it was definitely 2 songs would need to come off for it. And, it's then like, well, which one do we take out? And every time you suggest a song to take out, someone goes, no, I don't want that coming off. And it's like, we've got, 3 lots of 79 minutes. We can't make a CD 83 minutes long to put another song on. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
But those discussions were quite easy, to be honest. I think we didn't really have anything that was particularly contentious. Like I said, the 2 LP was the difficult one. There was a little bit around what songs made it onto the, which are the 6 songs that got dropped for the 5 LP, which ones didn't make it on. But it was a fairly easy process. There was some news. There was some of the band's requests didn't make it on, literally because you're taking off big singles if you're putting other songs on, and like you've alluded to, there's not really B-sides anymore.
No, they don't.
So
sadly, they don't exist, and it's a bit of a shame. But it is just evolution of music.
So the problem is the deep cuts of the earlier songs.
Yeah.
And the problem then is you're taking songs off the album that were singles off, or you're underrepresenting later stuff by overloading with the older material. And there were songs like Isabella was on the original listing because that was a single. Because we started off with a list of singles. It was, All the Colours, Beautiful Beaches, Isabella. And Tim rightly wants Zero on because I think, I agree with him that there's something about that song.
It's one of those live songs. It's one of the ones from that album that has stayed.
But you can't leave Isabella on then.
Yeah.
And Dear John, I think Dear John suffered similarly. That sort of dropped off, not because no one likes the song. It's like it's just in the hierarchy. It's like, well, if we've got to take one of these 6 songs off, that's the unlucky one.
Yeah.
But it's been really interesting, looking at what people have suggested, and some of those songs were very much in contention, and weren't on for very good reasons. But we've kept, I think, things like Honest Joe is, to me, really important song because it's wah wah. They still play it live. It's got a video, which it was sort of that weird phase of like, well, are they gonna promote this like a normal record with singles? And I think that's important. That was the one song I would have fought to keep on, to be honest, because I think it's a really key song, and I don't think they play it live enough.
And it was nice as well. I've seen it. We're up to about the All the Colours of You era. Look Make a Fool made it as well, an orchestra song, which
that was always going to be on. I don't think there was ever any discussion about that coming off because it represents that period. We talked about One Man Clapping. I don't recall a conversation. Now, the band may have had this conversation amongst themselves, but I never put forward an orchestral version of anything to go on.
No. And I don't think that would be right because they're all, they were made orchestral for that tour, for that era, but originally they weren't, whereas Love Make a Fool has always been, it's always
and I think with hindsight, which is obviously a fine thing, they might have gone back and recorded that orchestral album after the tour. Because I think I listened to the Acropolis version more than I listened to the studio version because the songs have come alive. They've had that, they've gone through that process of things happening. Like Someone's Got It In For Me, the bit where Josh sings, came from
things on the album.
it came from Tim being ill in Blackpool.
Yeah.
You know, he cancelled the next 2 shows because he couldn't sing. But that was like an accident that, you know, suddenly brought that song really to life. You know,
and then it kind of it followed on to they played it a couple of times on Live in 2024, didn't it?
Yeah,
Josh kept that line, and he was fantastic.
And it's key, and I think, you know, they talked about that, you know, Come Home was written while they were trying to play Sit Down, and they were messing around with it, and it just sort of came out of them trying to play Sit Down differently. Come Home came out, and you wouldn't be able to hear that. You wouldn't know that unless they told us. You know, it's really different that's how they write, and things happen by accident.
I love people
see like this really polished, you know, record and stuff, but how it gets made is very different.
Mm-hmm.
I think I really like the booklet. Because there's bits of information like that in it that you wouldn't usually know unless they've mentioned it.
And what I love about it is the way, you know, the way the newer members of the band get the songs.
Yeah.
You know, like Chloe's bits are really great. You know, so sort of you can tell she gets the band and what they're about, even though she wasn't in the band when those songs came out.
Yeah, it's really nice that they've been given some of the songs to do.
Yeah, and some of them, the girls weren't even alive. Like, some of them are that old that...
Yeah.
It's actually Deb. I think more Debbie, like, she wasn't even born when some of these songs came out, and she's able to comment on them so personally.
Yeah, I mean, Hymn from a Village, that bit where, you know, there's the two drummers. It's magic. You know, it's like, it just changes the dynamic of the song. You know, it's still the same song at the core, but the dynamic's different. And, you know, that's where I said, you know, those two coming in has changed the dynamic of the band.
Changed everything, yeah.
And it's great because it's a new period, it's a new evolution. And you see, you know, they're getting on so well. You look at Tim and Jim in some of these interviews and the way they're looking at each other.
Yeah,
it's like, you know, that's a big bromance there, which is amazing to see because I've seen them, you know, I've seen them at points where back in the late 90s, where it was difficult for them to be in the same room.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's incredible to see. And, you know, after so long, that they're still excited by each other and what they're creating.
Yeah.
Really,
and you can definitely see it on stage. You can see that they genuinely are having the best time ever. Their lives, and that they are just the bestest of friends.
Yes.
You the signings last week as well, couldn't you? Like in between people going up, they were all like looking at each other and smiling and joking.
Yeah, and that's one thing I really liked about. And Tim did this when Love Live came out because it, the release of that was a bit messed up. You know, I think with James it was like, you look at Tim Burgess and the Charlatans. When Tim Burgess brings out a solo record, the Charlatans social machines behind it.
Yeah.
I think James, it was difficult. So the James machine wasn't really behind Love Life. And the management of the record and the tour wasn't at the appropriate level for what it was. So the tour didn't sell particularly well. And we had a conversation early on, and I was saying to Tim, like, well, you've got to come out and do things that you wouldn't necessarily do, you know. And so he'd come out and sing to people in the audience, which he couldn't do in James. He'd go to the merch desk.
Oh wow!
Which it was like, well, come out and try it one night and just see. And that's how the VIP soundcheck worked. You know, I'd suggested that to him a couple of years before they did it, and they were like, "No, not doing that." And then when they did it, they were like, "Actually, this is really cool." And I think now I think they'd miss it now if they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Tim came out to the merch desk, and I think then that was when they started to see the impact they have on people. And, you know, and those moments, like people, there was a lady who said, this is the best moment of my life, like meeting Tim at Piccadilly Records. And it's like, and people telling stories. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to see this happen at various points. It happened a lot when he was doing the book signings last year.
Yeah.
Where, you know, those 2 or 3 minutes Tim was spending with him was like, you know, a life affirming moment for those people.
He was there for hours, wasn't he, signing?
Yeah, we were still in Stella Hall at 1 o'clock. But, you know, it was an incredible. I mean, it wasn't my book. I'm not the singer in James, and and I've known Tim long enough that I don't get fazed by meeting him, and you know, it's like we know each other. But watching people's reactions and Tim's reactions to it, because you know he's incredibly humble in those situations. It's really heartwarming to see that, because it shows how important they are, and I think the band understand that now, and that why these signings are really, really beautiful things. Just because, you know, they should say you'd never meet your heroes, but actually, if your heroes are nice people, then absolutely you should meet them. If your heroes are not so nice people, then you shouldn't.
No, of course.
You know, I've met musicians whose music I love that have met them and they've turned out to be complete arseholes.
Me too. And it ruins the music for you.
Yeah.
You don't look at it in the same way.
Yeah, and it's you know, I think we're fortunate as fans that we've got a band that's still going, and I know for you too, like you know, if they'd split up in 2001 and never come back, you probably wouldn't know each other.
No, wouldn't.
No,
I don't think any of them would know each other really, and we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
That's the really important thing, is that, you know, there's so many friendships, and you know, and there's lots of couples who are married who've watched, you know, and met at James gigs. There's a couple of friends of mine that he met on a coach going to Paris in 1993.
Wow.
My God.
And their first date, they went to Newport, from Manchester to Newport in a taxi to watch them. And it's like stories like that. And, you know, I look at a lot of my best friends through music. You know, there's very few of my friends who are not into music.
No, same.
And not that there's anything wrong with not liking music, but it's just, I think there's something emotionally that if you connect with music, you connect with similar people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where you're from, you know, what job you do, what your background is, what your age is, even. You know, I think it's just if you understand what's in there and what the connection is, then I think, you know, that's much more important than, you know.
I mean, if you think about the groups that like we all go to gigs with, complete age differences. I mean, Liam with your mum.
And I think that group has become, that group is now, you know, in the 90s, the fan communities were pretty toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And it went through a phase of that when they reformed, you know, there was like splinter groups and things like that. And I think now it's like, I think everyone's grown up a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, there's still people who don't like each other. But, you know, in real life, there's people who don't like each other. You know, there's people work with who they don't like, and people who work with who are, you know, you're best friends with. It's just, that's just part of life.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the sense of community now is sort of, and I think that's helped by the band. You know, Nothing But Love is a, you know, it's a 3-word statement, but actually it means quite a lot more.
In the James, it really does.
Yeah, and I think, you know, and I don't think I'm selling any secrets down the river here, but, you know, the album was originally going to be called Getting Away With It.
Right.
To tie in with a documentary, and then the band sort of decided that no, Nothing But Love is like our ethos. You know, they sign off the social stuff with it, and I think it's a you know, sort of overtaking, getting away with it as the band's motto.
Yeah.
Because I think it's the change of the phase of the band. You know, this sort of, the way that they are now, I think, particularly since COVID, has really sort of changed. You know, they're not flying by the seat of their pants as much as they used to. They still do, but not as much as they used to. Because with 9 people, you need a little bit more control with the way they've set up the light shows and the video screens. You can't go completely off piste.
No, there's a bit more
situations as much as you'd like to. You know, you can say we're going to improvise here and we're going to improvise there, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah,
but you can't just fly by the seat of your pants when you're putting on arena shows. It
doesn't. No, absolutely,
it just won't work. So I think it's a really nice title.
No, it works. It does work, and the new artwork is gorgeous. The new Daisy, I think, is a good representation of the band now. The 9 petals.
So I'm thinking back to the people who got really annoyed by that.
Oh God! All the stories, all the theories.
Yeah, but it's evolved. You know, it was 8, it was 7, it went back to 8, it's now 9. It's like it's a symbol. You know, it's
a symbol, but you look at it and you still think James. It's still James.
But I like it.
When I first saw it, I didn't actually notice.
We didn't. It was like,
no, we didn't.
Hang on.
It took a little while, and I think because I'd first seen it, it was on my phone.
We seen it on a phone first, and it was like,
home and saw the first draft of the booklet. It was like, it was 9 petals. And it's funny because everyone's gone. You know, it's this number of people in the band, and it's like, well, there would never been 8 in the band, and when it changed to 7, there was only 6 in the band. Because Andy wasn't in it, so it was never about number of people in the band.
No.
Yeah,
but it's quite funny now that it is.
No, it is, and it's nice. It's nice. I like it.
Yeah, and it's it's symbolic that it sounds really sort of pretentious, but it's sort of a bit of an evolution as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it still looks nice. I actually think people say the 8 looks cluttered, the 9 doesn't.
No, I think the artist who's done it has done a very good job.
Yeah, and I mean it's the same people who've done the artwork for the more recent albums, and I think it's a very nice theme without overblowing it. Because the band talk about not looking back, but I think having the Daisy there, to me, I'd have a JAMES shirt of a different colour on every single tour.
Yeah.
Because it's a recognisable logo, and I think bands having something that says that's them is really important.
Yeah,
and you can do all the other stuff with your merch, but I think having that identity.
And I think the younger fans really want that as well, because they obviously missed out.
Yeah, because I think merch, they were big in the early 90s with the merch. I think they sort of tailed off. I don't think the Laid merch was particularly great. And then sort of after that, there were some nice designs, but nothing that really stood out. But they were trying to move away from the Daisy, like that pig design for Millionaires.
Oh yeah,
didn't really work. And sort of, it's hard with merch because is sort of knowing what people want.
Yeah, it's people's personal preference as well. Like I know a lot of fans might like the darker colours, but some might like the lighter colours.
Yeah. Well,
it's what's on the t-shirt as well.
I'd never buy a white t-shirt because it just wouldn't flatter me in the slightest.
I'm not a big fan of the white either. I prefer black.
Whenever I just spill something instantly, so
I mean I can't eat properly, so I'd only be able to wear it for about 10 minutes.
Same. I think all my white ones have got like spaghetti stains on. Like
Although I've still got actually the because some of the retro ones came from like things I had. So I the white days, the whitish one with the purple daisy and the orange petal. I still had that from 1990.
Oh my god!
So it's still in my wardrobe, and I can somehow miraculously still get in it.
Because you've got all the photos on one of the free of all the old ones.
Yeah, and I got rid of a lot of those shirts about 12 years ago when I moved back to Manchester. I was like, these are just sat in a box in the lockup. So I sold them on eBay. And there were some really nice ones. Some that were nice, but not actually as a band T-shirt.
Yeah.
There was a Spawn of Frustration one that was basically purple, magenta, sort of that, the bright purple with stop, and then talking on the back. That was really cool. But you, other than it having James on the back, you wouldn't have known it.
You wouldn't have known.
Spawn of Frustration.
I like merchandise like that.
Yeah.
And it's hard, which ones work and which ones don't. But, and I think people talk about shirts that they used to have, but there's nothing more important, I think, for a band than having a recognisable logo. Because if you've got a great T-shirt that looks really nice, but it doesn't tell you who the band is, it's not doing its secondary job. The first job is to get some merchandising revenue, but the second task of merch is being an advert for the band. The shirt you've got on, Liam, there's no getting away from who that is.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. For people listening, I'm wearing the new James T-shirt, the green one with the green daisy on.
Are we not on video?
Oh, well, it'll not go out as...
right, okay.
Won't go out as video. That's just for us to talk.
Right, okay. I didn't realise that.
No, it just goes on. It goes on the podcasts.
Right.
So we're not going out on video because my cat just keeps walking in front of the laptop every so often.
I'm just going to start sticking two fingers up at you now every time you say something.
I thought you were being very polite, Dave, actually. This is why.
Yeah, I've combed my hair. Do we have anything else to talk about?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything from songs to merch to tours, everything, and I think you could just talk for hours. I mean, we're an hour 20 in, and I think we've talked about so much, but there's still so much to talk about.
Yeah, I'd love to come back on again.
Oh, absolutely.
Like definitely. Part 2, part 3, part 4.
We talk about very specific. We talk about very specific things as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because
hopefully stuff will happen. This will reignite. The documentary, the big tour will reignite. The interest in doing other things with, like I said, there's been some projects we've worked on that haven't come to fruition.
Yeah.
That hopefully will, if the powers that be at the label sort of see, well, there's money to be made out of this, and there's interest in the catalogue.
Definitely,
we can do something that's respectful, not just looking back, and isn't just putting something out on a different colour vinyl.
Yeah.
Brilliant. People want to hear, what did Seven sound like before? Because to me, Seven's a very overproduced album, personal opinion. But I've heard some of the demos, and the demos tell a different story about the songs.
Yeah.
And it'd be really nice for that to be out there. In the same way, Pudding's out there. They did it with The Morning After and The Night Before, didn't they? They put some demos of that out. Just be really sort of, fascinating stuff. It's just,
is
there a market?
It's just, you could just talk for hours because
it'd be nice.
That catalogue going.
It'd be really nice for The Night Before and The Morning After to come out on vinyl.
Yeah,
absolutely. Would love
that.
Are they
the ones that needs to be pressed on vinyl?
Well, Hey Ma really does as well, because it was only released in the US. And you know, La Petite Mort, I don't know why Cooking Vinyl have not just repressed that.
No, I didn't realise that was so rare until recently. I saw it in one of the groups.
I mean, it goes for like a couple of £100 at least. And you'd think that someone at Cooking Vinyl would be going, yeah, this needs to come out again.
Yeah, hang on a minute.
Even if it was just on a plain black vinyl, I think it would sell.
Yeah. Well,
or even maybe on a different colour to say obviously the original, and then there's the new one.
Well, you maybe just do you don't do the gatefold sleeve because it's got a really beautiful embossed sleeve. Maybe you don't do it with the embossed sleeve.
Just a plain sleeve, yeah.
Because you know, the vinyl market is quite lucrative if you put the right product out there. And I think that people are missing the step not having the morning after the night before as a record store day. I think. You know, it's
fantastic albums.
It's being talked about. It's just there's a pile of priorities. There's a million things that a record label could release, and it's just not got to the top of the pile yet. You know,
one day.
Well, you know, this album's taken up a lot of focus.
And at least this album represents those two albums. There's songs from there. Which
yeah. Although maybe not the ones people wanted.
No,
I love Crazy. I think Crazy is one of the best songs they've done.
I think Crazy is brilliant.
And one of the songs that came up, Look Away was on, obviously. The first list was the singles. So Look Away was on, which is a song that I really love.
I love Look Away.
Yeah.
But the band wanted Dust Motes. Because, you know, it's got that linked to the orchestra. It's a great song as well. But yeah, there's a lot of love for those records that when you think about where they charted and everything else, I think they're records that people have gone back to. And pretty much, you know, most of the songs, particularly off The Night Before, are on people's lists of songs that they thought was on. You know, Porcupine seems to be really
Porcupine seems to be really popular.
Temporary, obviously. There was a guy who had mentioned Shine today, which is a great song. You know, that was the one that they released. They played earlier. They played that the year before in Dublin, I think. And it was like, you know, there's a lot of great songs there. The second album, because it's the slower part of that double record, you know, a bit less immediate, but things like Rabbit Hole and Make for This City.
Make for This City. Amazing.
But you know, they're not going to shoulder some of the big songs out in a way.
No, I was surprised Ten Below didn't make it.
I was surprised I wasn't. I'm surprised that wasn't on the band's list of songs to put on. I think it had the orchestra thing. I think maybe where it came off was that they didn't, when they tried to play it live without the orchestra, it didn't quite have the same impact.
Yeah,
maybe it then went to the back of the minds. I was waiting for Ten Below to say put Ten Below on instead of Crazy, and it didn't happen, which I was really pleased about because much as I like Ten Below, I have a soft spot for Crazy. I think it was a really great song that got released at the wrong time.
It's great. Hopefully it'll make it into the set list at some point next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Jim had talked about them rehearsing Chameleon, which was a surprise because, you know, those two songs, Who Are You and Chameleon, were a bit lost in the catalogue because they were on Fresh as a Daisy and, you know, they weren't on streaming for a long time.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
it's definitely going to be exciting to see what comes off this and onto the tour.
Yeah, because they'll have revisited some of the songs.
Yeah, absolutely, and it'll be fun to come back.
Because, you know, there's a new album that's written or half written.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a few months now where they can work on that. So will they throw in a couple of new songs?
Possibly.
Will we get to hear both, you know, Superman and Hallelujah anyhow?
Interesting to see.
Because they seem about those two songs. So, you know, it'd be really interesting to see. And I think they've got so many songs that it'd be nice if they really mixed it up.
Yeah. I mean, we know they're not just going to do hits.
Yeah.
I think we're safe in saying that.
Yeah, but then you're in that difficult thing of if you're playing to 15,000 people.
There's got to be some.
You've got to get a balance. And it's a real fine line. It's a real fine line. And I think, you know, there's a way, in a weird way, if you're at a place they don't normally go to, you're more in a smaller venue, you're more likely to get that rarer stuff than if you're at the Co-op. Because, you know, the person furthest away from the stage isn't as far away at the motor point in Nottingham as they are at the Co-op.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can connect a lot easier than if you're looking at the person in row Z in the top tier. So it'd be interesting to see what they play. Yeah. Hopefully there'll be, you know, a couple of nice warm-up shows where they try a few
Amazing.
things.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so.
But Dave, thank you so much for coming on and being so insightful and just giving us so much information. You are.
I hope I haven't said anything that gets me into trouble.
And of course, obviously, just one of the three is our Bible. Like it is.
We mention it every episode, don't we?
Yeah, I think without that, like, because we can't know everything.
Yeah.
The tour
you probably do know everything.
But then what you're doing is good because it sort of encourages me to keep it up to date.
Of course.
Which reminds me I need to go and actually put the South American dates in the set list and stuff.
Amazing. Right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Well, we'll definitely revisit this conversation another time. But for now,
there's still a lot to talk about.
Okay.
And we'll see everyone next time.
See you next time. Bye.